Now let's all just calm down for a second because this topic can get some people real riled up. And it's amazing that, all the evidence on one side saying, oh, you really got to be a vegan is really compelling. And on the other side, where you really don't want to be a vegan, you really got to eat meat, all of that evidence is just as compelling. So this video is really not about deciding which side is right. This video is about understanding that I'm right. That's not what this is about. Now, it's really about understanding that there is no diet that is right for every person because we all process foods differently. So it's really more about looking at you and your unique bio-individuality to understand what's right for you. So in this video, we just want to talk about this circumstance where someone starts off being a vegan and they feel so great. They're, oh man, this is awesome. I should have done this a long time ago. And then whether it's a few months later or years later, they start to really not feel as well. So if this is going to go on with you, you want to understand why. That's what we're going to cover in this video. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Now, before we jump into this, let me just say this first. Now, if you're a person who eats vegan or vegetarian because of ethical or religious reasons, then it may be best for you to continue going that path. So even if you learn something in this video that makes you say, oh wow, maybe this is a problem for my specific body chemistry. Maybe including some animal proteins may be more beneficial for me and my unique bio-individuality. However, if it really goes against what you believe as far as ethics or religion or something like that, then the stress of going against what you believe may cause more harm than the benefits that you could get from including the protein if that is indeed right for you. So you really not only got to look at your bio-individuality, you also have to look at your circumstances and look at your whole situation to understand what's going to be right for you. So don't view this as me saying, oh, you really have to do this if your body chemistry is saying to do this. The reality is that you don't. I'm just talking about what's most optimal as far as your physiology goes. So let's jump into some of that stuff. The reality is that when you start off eating vegan and you remove those animal proteins, a lot of people will feel a whole lot better, they may have more energy, and they may even lose weight. So let's look at why that happens. If we're going to talk about the benefits that can come from someone removing meat or the benefits that another person might find by consuming meat, we really need to understand, first of all, the meat they're eating, and second of all, the person that is eating or not eating that meat. So if you haven't seen our video on why we debate whether meat is healthy or not, we'll put the link to that in the description below, and you can pop it right here. You can pause this and kind of check that out first, because that'll help you understand that, oh wow, what meat we eat really matters, and our ability to digest that meat is a super big deal. If someone's eating meats that are filled with toxins and medications and hormones and come from animals that are diseased because they're brought up eating foods that their stomach really wasn't made to digest in the first place, just so the farmer can make a profit, it's important to understand all those things. Because if you're doing those, if you're eating just mainstream meat, that's going to create some health issues. Also, if you can't break that meat down into the nutrients that your body needs, that's going to create health issues. Because if we can't digest the meat we're eating, it breaks down by process of rotting and fermenting, and all of that process of rotting and fermenting creates gases and toxins, and all of that accumulates in our body. So if that's what's going on when we're eating meat, then yeah, that's going to create a lot of health issues. So when a lot of people go vegan, if they're eating meat that is from animals that are not beneficial or they are filled with toxins, or if they don't have the digestive capacity to break that meat down, which is really common. A lot of people are not making enough hydrochloric acid in their stomach for a wide variety of reasons. So they can't digest the food that they're eating correctly. And there's this other whole subset of people who are turning off their stomach acid on purpose because it's relieving a symptom that they're having. So they don't have the ability to break down their food all the way as well. So when this is a situation, if a person removes meat, well, vegetables are a whole lot easier to break down than a steak. So if a person's digestion isn't working correctly and they remove meat, well, they just removed a big burden. they're going to feel a whole lot better not digesting vegetables than they would not digesting meat, because the vegetables break down a little bit easier. Another digestive aspect is that when we break down our food, it takes more resources than just about anything that the body does. And again, breaking down that meat takes a lot more effort. So when you remove that meat, all of a sudden resources and energy that was going towards breaking down food, now you need a little bit less of that. And now more of these resources can go towards more other tasks and you just having more energy in your day. So that can be one benefit. Another benefit is that when you remove meat, you're probably going to eat more vegetables. Well, a lot of vegetables contain nutrients that can be beneficial in helping to bind to acids that can be removed to the body. They can bind to toxins that can be removed to the body. It's almost like a little bit of a vacuum cleaner sometimes. So when you increase this level of vegetable intake that you're bringing in, you can have those benefits. A lot of vegans and vegetarians will also eat more carbohydrates that are a whole lot easier to break down than protein is. So they all of a sudden, well, I feel a whole lot better. And it's easier to access the fuel in those carbohydrates than it is the protein. So like, wow, I have energy. This is really great. I feel great. Another benefit is if these meats are filled with toxins or you can't break them down so they're all turning into toxins, by removing that meat, you're removing all these toxins from your body. So now the body has an easier time of getting rid of filth and junk that it needs to get rid of. It doesn't have to store all these toxins and filth in fat cells just because it can't deal with it and it's overwhelmed. And all of a sudden some weight starts to come off. So we do these things and we're like, oh man, this is awesome. I should have been vegan a long time ago. This is what happened when I went vegan long ago. I felt so much better and I was shouting from the mountaintops, hey you idiots, you gotta be vegan, look at how awesome I feel. The problem was that did not continue indefinitely, and this video will help you understand why. But now we need to understand some of the problems that can occur. Like we just mentioned, some of those vegetable properties can be alkaline and help neutralize acids in the body. The problem with that is that some individuals have their bloodstream already leaning to alkaline. It's really not a situation of everybody needs to alkalize or they're going to die, like a lot of the pH gurus will say. If that confuses you a little bit, we'll put a link in our description below this video on our video about understanding the truth about pH balance. Because if a person is already leaning too far on the alkaline side and they start eating all these foods that are supposedly going to alkalize their body even more, then they can magnify that problem. So when the blood starts to lean too far on the alkaline side, what happens is what's called the Bohr effect kicks in. And what this means is that it kind of traps oxygen in the blood, and the oxygen can't get down to the tissues where it needs to be. So this creates a lot of oxygen utilization issues for us, and we can feel kind of wiped out. You know, 6 months into me being a vegan, I was wiped out. I had no energy. I couldn't do anything, and it turns out that I was pushing my body far too alkaline. Now another issue is that just like a lot of vegetables and plant life contain nutrients that many believe you can't get from other sources and that you really need, so do animal proteins. So the problem is that you really can't get these nutrients from a B12 shot like a lot of people believe. And what happens is when we first go vegan, we still have a reserve of these animal-based nutrients that our body needs to function correctly. But over time, those nutrients start to deplete. So let's look at this. When we first go vegan, we remove this burden of either this toxic meat that we were eating or meat that we couldn't digest and was becoming toxic. So we removed that burden. Yet our body still has a backup reserve of all the nutrients that it needs to function correctly that it would have gotten from animal sources. The other benefit is now we're eating more vegetables to clear out more toxins and bind with acids and help neutralize any acids and balance the body out a little bit. But over time, as we deplete those nutrients, now we don't have access to them anymore because we're not bringing them in. Well, here's the problem. The body's going to get them anyways. The body needs them for many of these functions, and it's not just like, oh, I can just take a B12 vitamin or something like that. There are all these amino acid cofactors and other nutrients that just aren't available from a B12 shot. So when we start to not have those available, the body says, oh, well, I know where I can get it. I can just shop at the 7-Eleven. The problem is you are the 7-Eleven. So when the body's not getting the nutrients it needs, it'll break down your own tissues to access those nutrients. So when you're not eating those animal proteins, you become the animal protein that your body is eating. Not so great, right? So when people start to feel worse and worse, they never even consider the fact that they need animal protein because they felt so much better when they removed it from their diet. So do you understand how this confusion can kind of set in? Now, is a vegetarian or vegan way of eating healthy for some people? Yeah, it really is. There's a lot of evidence that shows that that's true. You know, what's really great about a vegan diet or many of these like paleo diet types of things is that a lot of them remove all the junk. They have you focus more on real foods. And when you do it that way, you can see a lot of benefits. Now, if someone's eating a vegan diet and they're eating all these frankenfood proteins, that's going to be a problem. These aren't real foods. A lot of them are soy-based, which can be very estrogenic. A lot of these, hey, it's a magical burger kind of things that are going on right now. When you look at the ingredients, it's almost shocking, and it makes you kind of gag just a little bit to see that, this is a little bit closer to Tupperware than it is food, and maybe I shouldn't be putting this in my body. So you don't want to view it like, oh, people say vegan is healthy, so any food that is vegan must be healthy. That's certainly not the case. That's not the case with any diet. We see a lot of people that'll go on a gluten-free diet because they say, hey, gluten-free is healthy, you got to eat this way. So they go in the store and they buy every packaged product that says gluten-free on it, and all of a sudden they're type 2 diabetic because all the carbohydrates that they're eating. So you really have to look at the food that you're eating if you want to improve the health of your body. Now, when someone removes problematic toxic meat or meat that they don't have the ability to break down, they can really see a lot of health improvements. But what we like to see people do, and it seems to bring more benefits, is to, number one, only eat meat that is not filled with all these toxic drugs and hormones and antibiotics and all this from diseased animals that are eating food that they shouldn't be eating. You remove that, and then you help your body break down protein the way that it's intended to break down protein, so that it can access nutrients from that protein, and so that the rotting and fermenting of that protein doesn't create more toxins in the body. And if you can do that, all of a sudden meat can be a very healthy part of your diet. What I hate to see is people who avoid meat just because they think doing so is the healthiest option. And that's really not the case for most people. Again, if it's an ethics or religious type issue for you, you got to do what's not going to stress you out. But you may have the ability to use some supplements that contain some proteins and nutrients that come from animal sources, and that may be able to help you fill in some of the gaps if that works in your brain. If it doesn't work in your brain, then don't stress yourself out like that. Another problem that vegans can face is that beyond the difficulty of accessing good sources of protein, because a lot of that soy and all that stuff is not beneficial and can create a lot of trouble, they often also gravitate more towards carbohydrates when they're not eating as much protein. And if those carbohydrates are sending insulin too high, too often, that's eventually going to lead to weight gain as the body becomes more and more insulin resistant, being hammered by carbohydrates all day, every day. So that can be another problem. So we like to see people eat maybe a little more vegetables in their meal, but if they can consume some type of animal protein, even just eggs or fish or something like that. A lot of vegans or vegetarians will have a specific type of animal protein that seems to work well for them, so they just include that. When you can include that even just once or twice a week, you can fill in those gaps and keep the body from saying, hey, you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to get it myself by breaking down your tissues, muscles, and even organs. What confuses a lot of people is that they lost weight initially, so why wouldn't I just continue losing weight? It must be something else that's causing weight gain. But remember, a lot of that weight gain in the beginning is just that release of toxins that was coming from either the bad meat that you were eating or the toxins that were coming from an inability to digest that meat. So you really got to look at your situation to understand that just because something happened initially doesn't mean that that's always going to be the case. If you're gaining weight or you're feeling lousy, it's time to look at your physiology and see what's going on and see if you're pushing your body too far in one direction. So to learn how to do that, we have a totally free digestion course that walks you through some simple self-tests you can do at home using tools you can pick up at a pharmacy or a health food store, and you can look at your physiology and see where your body chemistry is and see if maybe you're taking some steps that's magnifying some imbalances that are now creating some problems. We'll put a link to that totally free course in the description below the video. But for you now, if you are a vegan or a vegetarian and everything is going great, then maybe you don't worry about it so much. Maybe you just stick with what's going well for you. But if you're having problems, just understand that each side of the argument has a lot of compelling research that they can present you and really convince you that this is the path that must be followed. Understand that's not true. There aren't any rules that says that you have to do this or that this is the healthiest diet that there is. There isn't a healthiest diet for everyone. It's never going to exist because we all process foods differently. So worry more about you instead of being right. Look at your physiology, and if you're having trouble, take steps to improve that. For now, if you haven't already, check out our video on understanding the debate about meat. I can't wait to hear about your results.